Welcome back to Larkmeadow Cottage. I'm so happy you found your way here. Today we're creating another page for our growing crystal grimoire, and this one is dedicated to Carnelian, a stone that seems to hold a little piece of autumn sunlight within it. Whenever I look at Carnelian, I imagine tiny glowing embers tucked beneath fallen leaves, waiting to be discovered by curious wanderers. It's a crystal that feels warm, cheerful, and full of possibility, which makes it a lovely companion for a creative afternoon. So let's settle in together, gather our supplies, and spend a little while making something beautiful. Before I ever begin painting, I'd like to pause for a moment and imagine the page already finished. Not every detail, of course, just the feeling I hope it will have. Will it feel quiet? Will it feel enchanted? Will it remind me of a woodland walk, or perhaps a cozy evening beside a crackling fire? I've found that when I start with a feeling instead of a perfect plan, creating becomes much more enjoyable. There's less pressure to make everything flawless, and more room for little surprises to find their way onto the page. I've been thinking lately about how creativity isn't something we find, it's something we practice. Sometimes inspiration arrives all at once. Other times, it only appears after we spent 15 or 20 quiet minutes simply showing up. There are plenty of days when I don't feel especially inspired before I begin painting. But somewhere along the way, as the brush keeps moving, inspiration quietly joins me. Maybe it was waiting all along for me to make the first brush stroke. If you've ever looked at another artist's work and wondered if yours is good enough, you're certainly not alone. I think nearly every creative person has moments like that. But comparison has a funny way of making us overlook the things that make our own work special. No one else mixes colors exactly the way you do. No one else paints with your hands. Even the tiny imperfections become part of your artistic voice. Those little differences are often what make handmade art feel warm and inviting. One thing I've been reminding myself recently is that not every painting needs to become my favorite painting. Sometimes a page simply teaches us something. Maybe it teaches patience. Maybe it teaches restraint. Maybe it reminds us to leave a little more white space or to stop one brushstroke sooner. Every page quietly prepares us for the next one, and I think that's a beautiful way to grow. Today I'll be painting several pieces of carnelian using watercolor. One of the things I enjoy most about watercolor is how every crystal ends up with its own personality. Even when I paint the same shape twice, the pigments settle differently. Some become bright and glowing, others soften into gentle washes of color. It's a lovely reminder that handmade things never need to match perfectly. As these crystals begin to take shape, I'm slowly building layers of warm oranges, soft reds, and touches of golden brown. One layer dries before another is added, almost like each wash is quietly telling the next one where to settle. Patience is one of watercolor's greatest teachers. It gently reminds us that rushing rarely creates the result we're hoping for. Sometimes the most beautiful colors appear only after we've waited. Whenever I'm working in my grimoire, I try to think of it less as a reference book and more as a collection of memories. Each page becomes a small snapshot of a peaceful afternoon. Months from now, I probably won't remember exactly which brush I used or how I mixed the colors, but I'll remember sitting here, hearing the water swirl in the rinse cup, watching the paint bloom across the paper, and enjoying the quiet rhythm of creating. Those moments become part of the page too. I think that's one of the reasons I enjoy watercolor so much. It asks us to let go. Once the water begins moving, there's only so much control we have. Sometimes the paint flows exactly where we hoped. Sometimes it has completely different plans. And surprisingly often, those unexpected little blooms become my favorite parts. Nature isn't perfectly controlled. Leaves don't grow identically. Moss spreads however it wishes. Clouds drift wherever the wind carries them. Maybe our art can be allowed a little of that freedom too. One of the things I hope this grimoire becomes is a place where curiosity can live. Not because we need to know everything about every crystal, but because it's enjoyable to slow down and learn about the beautiful things that have existed in nature for millions of years. Whether you collect crystals or simply enjoy painting them, there's something wonderfully peaceful about spending time appreciating their colors, textures, and stories. One of my favorite parts of making grimoire pages is adding little decorative details. Tiny stickers, bits of greenery, delicate accents. They're like the finishing touches that make the page feel lived in. Almost as though someone has been collecting treasures during woodland walks and carefully pressing them between the pages over many seasons. I love imagining that every page in this book has its own little story waiting to be discovered. As I finish the last touches, the page starts to feel complete. It's amazing how a few small details can completely change the atmosphere of a piece. Almost like lighting a candle in a cozy room. The space was already beautiful. Now it simply feels a little warmer. And now, before we finish today's page, it's time to add a little written note to the back. I'll leave you with these words. Carnelian glows like a tiny ember carried from a dragon's hearth, warm with courage, creativity, and joyful energy. Its fiery shades of amber and sunset orange are said to awaken confidence, spark inspiration, and encourage bold new adventures. Keep this radiant crystal close whenever your spirit longs to create, explore, or chase the dreams that shimmer just beyond the horizon. Thank you so much for spending a little time here at Larkmeadow Cottage today. I hope this quiet moment inspired you to create something with your own hands, no matter how simple it may be. Until next time, may your tea stay warm, your paints stay vibrant, and your imagination always find its way home.